The third principle is the principle of empathy. And empathy is the ability to put yourself in the other person's position, to imagine what they're going through, to try to feel what they're feeling. Now, there are times where you simply can't put yourself in the other person's position, and contrary to what you may have heard, you don't want to say things like, I know what you're going through, or I know how you feel, because you probably don't. Now, there are certainly exceptions, and if you really do know how the other person feels, then sure, maybe. But let me give you an example. Now, how many people in the room have ever been pregnant? Show of hands. And while you were pregnant, how would you have reacted if I would have said, I know how you feel? Well, I'm from Missouri, and in Missouri we have a saying that something about whopping them upside the head, and you might whop me upside my head, right? And understandably so. So empathy is not about saying that you know how the other person feels, but it's about imagining what the other person is going through and thinking about how you would feel if you were in their shoes. Now, let me give you an example of how you can deal with empathy when you can't relate to what the other person is talking about. I office in my house, and one day I'd been working on setting up a site-to-site IPsec VPN between two disparate devices, and I couldn't get the ping to go through. I couldn't get them to handshake. It just wasn't going to work, and I was getting really, really frustrated, and finally I got it to work. I got the two devices to handshake, I got the ping to go through, and it was great, and I went running upstairs to tell Janet, my wife. Now remember that Janet is a yoga instructor and a ceramic artist, and she doesn't give a rip about IPsec VPNs, doesn't even know what they are, and doesn't want to know what they are. But here's what she said. When I went running up there and told her, she said, and I quote verbatim, she said, "Sweetie, that's great, good job." And I felt so good because I knew that she cared about me, and that's really the point. We care about our end users, and there's going to be times where you can't relate to what caused their emotion, but you can relate to the emotion, and she was relating to my enthusiasm and my excitement, not the IPsec VPN. She was just simply relating to the excitement. So when you can't relate to the emotion, to what's going on with the other person, you relate to the emotion. And that's one of the ways that you can show empathy. Now, there's some words and phrases that you can use, like you can say, I'm here to help, what can I do to make things better, to try to understand what they're going through. To recognize that maybe you can't relate to that administrative assistant whose system just crashed right as a big report was due, but you can think back to when you were working on a configuration file, and maybe it was a long access list or something like that, and suddenly your computer blue screened right in the middle of it, and you can relate to your frustration. And that's what you do. You relate to the emotions, even when you can't relate to what caused it. So, take 60 seconds and write down what one small action you'll take within the next 24 hours to be more empathetic towards your customers and your end users. And then tell your neighbor.